Hey everybody, I would like to take this time just to say, how y'all doing? And we're going to use this video for this week to talk about what we've been talking about in kids ministry and family ministry as a way for parents and kids to connect with each other this week. You got some time on your hands, so I want to give you an opportunity to do that. And for anybody else who's not really attached to kids ministry or family ministry at FBCT, watch this anyway. It's great stuff. I love sharing with people about what Jesus said about this month's Life app, forgiveness. Forgiveness is deciding that someone who has wronged you doesn't have to pay. And I think that there is no greater example of forgiveness than in the book of Luke, chapter 15, where Jesus told a story that we call the parable of the lost son. But really, I think it should be called the parable of the really, really, really awesome father, the awesome dad. You know, Jesus had begun doing miracles, he had begun teaching people, and crowds followed him everywhere he went. And this made the religious leaders mad because they were upset because Jesus was allowing anyone to follow him, even people who had done wrong things. The religious leaders believed that in order to get closer to God, you just had to follow the rules. And Jesus needed to correct their way of thinking. So he told them this story. It's found in the book of Luke, chapter 15. It tells a story of a man who had two sons. And tradition told us that when the father died, he would leave an inheritance for his sons. That was kind of everything that the father had left over, he left to his family. Well, this son had the bright idea that he wanted to go ahead and take his money now. So he asked his father for his inheritance now, even before his dad was dead. It's kind of a slap in the face. And so the father gave him his half of his share and told the son, here you go. So the son started off for a wild life. He went to a far-off country and he began to spend all of his money. He spent it and spent it and spent it and spent it. And all of a sudden he looked up and realized, I don't have any more money. I'm broke. And so he went to work for a man feeding pigs. He had fallen off far, far, far away from where he was. He got so hungry one day. It got so bad that he looked around and said, maybe I should just eat some of this pig's food. Gross. And then he started thinking clearly. It all came back to him. What am I doing? What am I doing? I should just go back home, ask my father for forgiveness, and maybe he'll make me a servant. I mean, after all, his servants have more food than this. Maybe dad will forgive me. And so the son started off for home. And when the son came walking down the road, his dad saw him walking from afar off and he said, that's my son. And the dad went running to the son. He took off running so fast for his son. His son probably thought, oh my gosh, my dad's going to come after me and he's going to choke me. But his dad ran faster and faster and faster and faster, and he ran to his son. When he got to his son, the son was so ashamed. The book of Luke explains it to us this way in Luke 15:21. The son said to him, Father, I've sinned against both heaven and you, and I'm no longer worthy of being called your son. And he was expecting his finger to be wagged in his face and saying, I told you that you would do this. I can't believe you would do this. But instead, this is what the father said. The father said to his servants, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger, get sandals for his feet, kill the calf we've been fattening, that we've been saving up for a moment just like this. We must celebrate with a feast. For this son of mine was dead, and now he has returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found. And one of my favorite parts of this is the very next line found in Luke. It says, so the party began. The party began, and they began to celebrate. And the son finally realized what it meant to be forgiven. But that's not where the story ends. The older son was in the field, still working. And he was so frustrated. Why did we do this for this brother of mine who spent all this money? And the father said, listen, you're my son. Everything I have is yours. And this son of mine, who I thought was dead, is alive, and he must be forgiven. Everyone needs to be forgiven. That's our bottom line. Everyone needs to be forgiven. Jesus told us a beautiful story to illustrate that to us. Parents, at this point, after this video is over, if you could go to the link that I've put on both Facebook here and on YouTube, studio252.tv, there are some week 4 videos on the parable of the lost son. And there's the Bible story that will kind of reiterate what I've just talked about, but it will also have something called the So and So Show, which is a hilarious talk show that your kids will love. You will enjoy it. It's hilarious. You will enjoy it. I promise you. And you'll probably want to go back and watch previous episodes from weeks 3, 2, and 1. And just have a great time just having some Jesus talk, sharing some things with each other, and doing that. I want to share with you our bottom line. Everyone needs to be forgiven. And so, talk about forgiveness this week. On our parent queue that we have for the month, a question that you can share with each other over a meal. Parents, share with your kids about the biggest restoration project you've ever undertaken. Maybe it was a car. Maybe it was a house flip. Maybe it was just renovating a room, moving furniture around, reorganizing some space. I'm sure we're all doing that right now while we've got time. Talk about a time when you've restored something and how that parallels with forgiveness and the restoration that we have with Christ because he forgave us. And kids, I'm not leaving you out of this either. When you're sitting down for a meal with your parents, I want you to think about a time and talk about a time when you feel like you've been forgiven the most. How did you feel before you were forgiven after you had done something wrong? But how did it feel after you were forgiven? That's such an important thing to talk about, is the forgiveness that we have in Christ, how we were not deserving of forgiveness, but yet we were given forgiveness by God. And now we are like that lost son who God just embraces and hugs and says, this is my favorite son. This son who was once lost is now found. There's a lot of hope there. There's a lot of joy there. I hope you have a great week. Have a great time watching those videos and sharing some real Jesus talk around meals this week. Have a great week. Love you guys. And Pastor Jeremy signing off.